Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast. I am your host, Kai McEwen, joined by the rest of the three-man weave crew, Jim Root and Matt Cox. Every Monday morning, we'll be dropping a new BBOC episode, talking all things betting in the world of college hoops. Today's episode, we're going to do a little bit of a switch. Not many games this week, being a holiday week. Happy holidays out there, by the way. Got the Diamond Head Classic, of course, going on right now on Sunday when we're recording, heading into Monday, and heck, I believe Tuesday is the championship game, fellas. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. I'm right. I'm getting nods.
They have a day. They go semis tomorrow, and then they take off one day, and then title game is...
Well, we'll speculate. We'll speculate anyways on the Diamond Head Classic, but we're going to focus mostly on futures. Look at the futures market, particularly in the conference futures market. I think a lot of good nuggets still to be found out there now that non-conference play is pretty much out of the way. You see some teams certainly underachieve from what we expected in the preseason. Maybe they're good candidates to bounce back. Heck, get a better price on those teams in their conference play. We know conference play is a big opportunity for teams to reset and kind of play towards their preseason expectations, or maybe fade teams that are doing really well, playing over their heads, and it kind of works both ways there. But we're going to hit the power leagues for sure, the big four leagues now, Power Four, and then we're also going to hit the Mountain West and the AAC as well. And fellas, am I missing any on the list here? I feel like I'm missing the Big Ten, of course. Yeah, guys.
Yep, Big Ten.
I'm talking four, and I missed the Big Ten completely. That's okay. We'll get them included as we go down the list. First, let's talk real quick. Diamond Head Classic. So Monday, we know right now that Oregon State, the Beavers, who are still undefeated against the spread, basically a wagon at this point, just beat Charleston. They play the winner of Loyola and Oakland. Charleston, of course, plays the loser. On the other side of the bracket, you have Nebraska, Murray State versus Charlotte/Hawaii. Jim, any inklings going forward on this bracket? Do we continue to just take Oregon State against the spread till they don't cover? This team is ridiculous right now. What are your thoughts on the Diamond Head?
Yeah, I don't know what to do with them as far as a rating. I feel like I keep raising them up, and I can't keep up a spread. That wasn't even close to the Charleston spread. And yeah, Kai, I think we just assume that they are the best team in the country and are going to sweep through that event. Nebraska is the favorite in betting markets before the tournament, but I do not think that anyone's better than Oregon State right now with the way they're playing. So I would anticipate the Beavers rolling through that, Kai. And as long as the number isn't absurd, I will probably bet on them in the semis, and assuming title game they make it. The title game is on Christmas, confirmed. So they're
Christmas Eve,
Sunday, Monday, Wednesday.
Christmas Eve is cold turkey. I think the 26th is cold turkey, and we have a couple of non-D1 games on the 27th for those of you who have paperhead shops who are going to line. Let's see what Duquesne plays somebody dumb, and then anyway, yeah, I like Nebraska, and I kind of think they win this. We'll see. Oregon State's been pretty awesome. Maybe the West Coast time zone gives them an extra, smidgen of an edge with the travel, but I think by Christmas that'll pretty much be washed away. So yeah, Kai, let's talk futures.
Let's talk futures, and guys, if you can help me out with some Big Ten lines, I'm using MGM right now for conference futures because they have every conference up here, so it's easy. But obviously, shop around if you're looking at these. Big Ten I can't find right now. We'll get to them. Let's start with.
It's because we are in Illinois, Kai, and they are.
No, I'm looking at Arizona's actually. Still not on MGM, so interesting, kind of weird. So if you guys can help me out while I'm hosting and throwing it around the horn here.
On mine as well.
Unfortunate. Maybe we'll check a different sports book.
Why do you have them?
Yep, I'll pull up on FanDuel. We'll get there.
Let's talk Big East first, fellas. 3-horse race, I would say, and then the market, the betting market at least, sees it the same way right now. Marquette is the favorite right now, plus 170 at MGM. UConn plus 180. St. John's 240, and then it really slides down after that. A long shot. Now, this conference has already started play, so obviously take into account that some of these leagues have started. Some of these teams have started off 1-1, 0-2, 2-0, etc. So clearly it skews the lines a bit. Matthew, is this a 3-team race? Would you look to go outside of these 3 teams to win the conference, like a Creighton, for instance, who's getting Fader Zujic eligible quite soon if he's not. I don't remember him playing in last game. Did he play last game?
Yeah.
So he's a good replacement, obviously, for Pop Isaacs getting in there. Where would you go in the Big East right now?
No official play. I mean, the Marquette St. John's, UConn both being 2-0. I mean, you could maybe talk me into like bully me into Villanova as a long shot flyer. We talked about how they're playing better. I think we're all sort of out on this new, just the Kyle Neptune coached Villanova team, but they have looked better lately. They're 1-1, so they're a game back. But at 50-1, they're a whole tier below like Xavier, who is 0-2 in the conference. Doesn't really make a ton of sense to me, even though I think we like Xavier generally long term. So Nova maybe, but outside of that. I don't know, Jim. Maybe St. John's at plus 250, but I think Marquette and UConn are pretty good, pretty clear favorites. And I don't think there's any value on the underdogs below them other than maybe Nova.
No, I don't touch Nova. Don't do it. Save your pennies. It's going to be one of the top. I think one of the top two. I think St. John's is lacking a little bit of the kind of extra juice. I know they were able to pull off a road win at Providence, but again, I don't think Providence is any great shake. Bryce Hopkins did not play in that game, and St. John's still needed a buzzer beater. It's coming from the top two, and honestly, UConn looks fantastic right now. I know it wasn't pretty at Butler. It came a little bit more down to the wire, and the Xavier game was OT, but that was an incredible shot-making performance by the Musketeers. As good as I believe Marquette is, and they have a road win as well at Xavier. They played in some tough road environments already. Iowa State, Dayton come to mind. They won at Maryland. I think UConn with a little extra value there is where I would go. Plus 180. Again, Kai, you can't parlay at MGM, but over at FanDuel, which does allow that.
Yep.
Marquette is sitting, they're even at plus 175, both UConn and Marquette.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind trying to go for a long shot parlay with like UConn and somebody else and really build up your payout there.
Hey, how about a parlay with Duke, who is the odds-on favorite for the ACC, which we can transition into. Duke minus 250 at MGM right now. Again, line shop if you're going to take these futures. Clemson 450, plus 450 at MGM right now, UNC 700. And then it really trickles down. I think Pitt's something around 14-1. Your thoughts, Jim, first. Is it worth taking anybody besides Duke? Would you lay 250 on Duke? Personally, I would not. I think it's too much, too rich for my blood.
Yeah, I wouldn't lay it. I would maybe use it as a sweetener in parlays at FanDuel, but that's about it. I mean, they have 2 road wins already. That's pretty important. Matt, we know the younger Duke teams sometimes can have some eggs on the road. They can lay some eggs, but they have already gotten 2 victories there under the belt. I think Duke is probably going to run away with this, but Pitt sort of intrigues me. Once they get Damian Dunn back, they could look really good. And Clemson also, they have been a force in past years. They've been really good on the road. So I don't mind that one either as a potential gamble, but it's going to be Duke's conference. I think they're appropriately priced where they're at. This was like 3-1 at one point on MGM in the preseason.
It was.
Got hammered down to like plus 150. And now since the season started, the distance, like there's no other Ken Pom teams in the top 25 and Duke is third. The line is reflective of how likely they are to win. I think that's fair. So I'm not dancing in value. I don't think there's a long shot worth looking at there.
Guess who has the easiest schedule for Ken Pom?
Is it Duke?
North Carolina. Raise up, Kai. And I'm not going to make a case for UNC. I won't make a serious case. I'll just, if you're into the UNC bounce back, which I'm not, but I think there's a valid case to be made. They do have the easiest conference in a very highly
Matt, I would like to disagree with you here.
Okay, you're welcome to.
But I'm saying the strength of schedule. UNC has the second hardest schedule remaining in the conference. Per Bart Torvik's website, they have played the easiest so far, 17th easiest.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Sorry.
They have the number 2 remaining difficulty.
Thank you. Correct.
Yep.
Although I will point out they don't play Duke until Feb 1st, and then again at March 8th. So I like that they're at least getting the team that they'd be going against like later in the. It's backloaded. Like they start off the year, they go at Louisville, winnable game, at Notre Dame, SMU, at home, NC State. I don't know. Again, just trying to find value below the Dukes of the world. I think UNC you could maybe talk me into. But yeah, you're right. They still have to play Duke twice. They still have who else? I guess Clemson twice, I believe, correct?
To your point, Matt, here we're looking at the per Bart Torvik. They've got he's got a page for each conference that shows strength of schedule so far in league play and remaining ahead. And Duke actually has the second easiest, partially because they don't have to play themselves.
Right. Obviously, it'll be skewed by
but 17th easiest compared to even somebody up there like Carolina with the second remaining difficulty. That skews even more towards Duke. The fact that they've got 2 road games out of the way and they can't play themselves.
Phyllis, how about SMU, man? 35-1 sitting there, 2-0 in the conference. Been looking kind of like a juggernaut. I don't have the Stones really. I think it's Duke's league as well. But
We kind of backed off them. I think we really liked them, and then people thought they
bullied
Golden
us.
State
They
stink,
bullied
and,
us
yeah,
off the
bullied into-
take.
yeah, that was stupid.
I
of
know.
us. I mean,
Yeah,
again, they're
Boopie
not
Miller's
going this conference,
bad.
but-
You guys, like, is he? No, he's good.
No,
What
he's
are you
good.
talking
Good
about?
player.
Yep.
Let's head to the SEC, which is on pace to be one of, if not the best conference like ever of all
Yeah.
time. And that's not even hyperbole, like literally. This conference is nuts. Basically, every team is ranked inside the top 70-ish on KenPom right now. The net, it's dominating. They're going to set a record for most teams to make the tournament, I'm sure. 12 teams is very possible from this conference, which is crazy. Right now, the odds, very clustered, not surprising, but clustered. Auburn, plus 150. Tennessee, 225 at MGM. Alabama at 525. And Florida, Kentucky are both 9-1. And that's not even mentioning teams like Texas A&M, like Arkansas. Other teams that are, hey, pretty good. Mississippi State, not even mentioning them, a team that's been really impressive early on. Jim, where do you go in the SEC if forced to bet? Heck, I've been really impressed by Florida, but I'm not sure any team in the country is better than Auburn or even Tennessee right now.
Yeah, and quick to your point on the amount of teams likely going to the tournament. MGM has a line on teams to make the tournament from the SEC, and it's 10.5, and over is minus 175. So it is heavily
for
juiced.
good reason.
There will be likely 11 teams from the 16-team league. It's going to get them because everybody has put up a good resume. Anybody that gets 7 wins in league play is likely going to be in, because every team has done enough in non-league to have enough to fall back on, where a 7-11 league mark is going to be good enough. As far as betting the actual title winner of that conference, Kai, I can't do anything but Auburn. They're the best team in the country. Every time I watch them, I'm blown away. We're recording this the day after they just trolled Purdue, just beat them by 20 the entire game. They beat Ohio State by 40. They're just kind of running teams out. They have unbelievable home court advantage in the jungle. And I think the fact that they're so dominant at the rim on both ends of the floor with Broome, with Cardwell, that makes it that they can travel. It's not going to be as volatile as some Auburn teams where they're really jump shot reliant. They get a lot of easy looks. They have the best offense in the country per both KenPom and Bart Torvik. I think that translates too. So as much as I'm like maybe intrigued by Florida 9-1 because they have a slightly easier schedule per Bart Torvik, I'm not going to go anywhere else besides Auburn, Kai.
I thought maybe one of the Egg Bowl schools, Mississippi State, caught my eye. Just that from a value perspective, 4 times the value of Florida. Like I really like this Chris Jans team. We talked about how balanced they are. They don't really have a clear weakness. We like a very proven coach, and I think you could say the same sort of DNA applies for Ole Miss, right? They actually are playing defense this season, unlike last year. They kind of fixed their defensive miscues. But yeah, it's just tough to go against Auburn. Even Tennessee, I think that's a team that I haven't fully given the proper respect for how good they've been.
Agreed.
And they're priced, appropriately. I'm not looking to. In Alabama, you could argue they're even undervalued because they haven't had their full collection of players. Chris Youngblood recently came back. I know they lost Wrightsell, but getting Houston Millett off the red shirt assembly line, he could be a real piece. So yeah, I don't know. This is a league I'm going to stay away from. I think if you love Auburn, I guess my question would be, if you could take Auburn or Duke at the value/price that they're at, who would you choose? I think I would take Duke over Auburn, but it's close though.
Duke feels like pretty much a sure thing, whereas you could see Auburn conceivably losing the conference to a Tennessee, for instance.
Yeah, obviously you're getting better value with Auburn. So I think I would prefer Duke if you had to choose one of the top front runners, just given the price, but still tough.
Yeah,
so I'm not like amped to lay minus 230 for a conference future, so I'm probably I'm not going to do that.
Too.
But yeah, I'll leave that alone. But that is an interesting premise, Matthew. It's an interesting premise.
Yeah, for me, if you want to look at a longer shot, it's Kentucky or Florida at 9-1. I know Kentucky just lost to Ohio State. Still a really good team, in my opinion. But yeah, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, A&M, they're all at 40-1. If you're going to take a flyer of those teams, I think Mississippi State's probably the one. We've seen A&M, though, perform very well in conference play last couple of years. So, heck, there's stupider things to do with your money at 40-1. Let's say that. Okay,
Oklahoma's undefeated. They're
Oklahoma's
6-1.
undefeated.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. 6-1. It's crazy.
I think,
To
sorry, real quick, looking at bracket matrix, I think there's like 9 locks in the SEC. And I'm using the word locks liberally, but going back to
yeah,
Jim's point about if you can bet the over, was it 10.5, Jim?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
minus
Man,
175, but I think there's almost
it's
no
gonna
chance
hit
they
it.
don't
Yeah,
get 11.
yeah,
yeah.
that looks pretty good.
All right, heading to Big 12 country, the former best conference in America, no longer, no longer. Very tight race up top. Iowa State right now, the favorite, plus 200. Houston 225, Kansas 350, and then the drop off comes. You got Cincy at 9-1. You got Texas Tech 12-1, Baylor 16-1, and man, something that I couldn't conceive preseason, Arizona 30-1. Nuts how poor they have looked so far. Matt, which direction you go? I still think Houston is the best team in this conference. Do I love them at 225? Not necessarily, but I do think it's their league. If forced to bet something, that's the direction I would go. How about you?
It's funny. I think this is the one where I'm looking at the favorite, Iowa State. I relative to Auburn and Duke, I almost think this is the best value for the favorites. But I looked at Texas Tech. You know, they're going to get healthier. Hopefully, JT Topic can get back out there consistently. I do worry that like some of these injuries that keep popping up are going to be lingering and just kind of they're going to maybe sabotage a couple of spots throughout the conference season where they just don't have their full collection of players. But Texas Tech's home court is no joke. Obviously, every home court in this conference is for real, but Texas Tech's is, I mean, statistically, it's the best in the conference, best in the country. So, sorry, KU fans. Arizona intrigues me somewhat. Obviously, it's an all-time buy low spot. They have a great home court at McHale. More of a regular season team, right? Their whole thing is postseason play, and that can they adapt to certain styles. New conference certainly will have it. I think even amplified home court edge there, Jim. I don't know. I got nothing here official. Those were kind of the spots I looked for value, but ultimately sat on my hands.
I think I would bet Houston at this number. I know they haven't won big games so far this year. They've got the loss at Auburn down the stretch and then 2 overtime losses to San Diego State and Alabama in Vegas. But they're projected to win the league by 3 games on Bart Torvik, despite having a slightly harder schedule than Iowa State. Iowa State actually is listed as having the easiest schedule in the conference. Excuse me, 3rd easiest, 16th hardest. But I think Houston is, well, you're talking regular season teams, Matt. They're like Virginia when they were rolling under Tony Bennett, like just a metronome of high effort. You're going to get the same kind of defensive performance every single night, game to game, not as many swings. It feels a little like last year when people are like, oh, it's going to be Kansas, or oh, maybe Iowa State's the cute team because they're blowing everybody out in the non-conference. And Houston won it by 2 games, 15-3. Kai, I feel like getting them not as the favorite right now is a little bit wild because they're higher rated in both Ken Pom and Bart Torvik than Iowa State.
Agreed. Yeah, if I was going again, Houston would be my pick here. They're the best team for me.
When healthy they are. Yeah, when healthy.
When healthy. Yeah. When healthy. Okay, the most wide open conference of the power leagues, it's the Big Ten. We did find some odds here on Caesars, courtesy of Caesars. This is the conference I think you want to take a bit of a longer shot on. There are 3 teams that are 2-0 right now in conference play. But here are the odds listing so far. So per Caesars, Michigan is the favorite right now, plus 350. Tells you just how wide open the league is. UCLA at 400, Maryland 6-1, Purdue 6-1, Illinois and Michigan State both 8-1, Ohio State 10-1, the Oregon Ducks, baby, at 12-1. They are 1-1 in the league, but gosh, man, that's what I'm looking at, Jim. What do you think?
Yeah, Ducks very intriguing. I wish they didn't have a home loss. That
tough,
really
tough.
hurts.
That
You
BS
gotta-
bank, that banker by who was that? Andrews or Mack for UCLA?
I think it was Andrews that hit it right after Shellstad had given them the late lead and they had climbed back into it. But that's part of why UCLA is where they're at because they're 2-0 with a road win at Oregon.
Huge,
Michigan's got the road win at Wisconsin, so both of them kind of sporting like, all right, we've actually proven we can go out and do it. A little bit of proof of concept in that. But I guess it comes down to like down through February and March, which team do you think has the highest ceiling of this group? That's where you really want to take the stab at. I know some Illinois fans are very high on their ceiling based on their youth. And when their shots are going in, they look really good. But Kai, I think they're really vulnerable to zones. Like they just don't. They can't run their pick and rolls the way they typically do. Oakland really slowed them down with that, and Mizzou kind of junked it up against them today with that as well. So I'm not looking at Illinois. But honestly, I think the best draw is UCLA. They get those West Coast teams twice. They get. I'm not super impressed by USC or not at all impressed with Washington. UCLA gets them twice. Everybody's got to go all the way out to them at Pauley. That's my probably biggest concern is that they don't have the same caliber of home court as your
Yeah.
Purdue or your
Right.
Michigan State. So that's the one that that probably gets me a little off of that bandwagon. I don't know, Matt. I think it's tough. It's kind of beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And we mentioned earlier that perhaps we haven't given Tennessee enough love. Maryland's a team I don't think I've given enough love to. So they might even be worth a look where they're priced. What do you think?
Yeah, Maryland's road woes have bothered me the last couple. Last year, I know was certainly a stark dichotomy between home and road splits there. Yeah, Jim, the West Coast teams, none of those home courts really strike fear in my. I mean, USC is a joke. Let's just call it what it is. UCLA and Oregon, I mean, fine, but that's kind of why I like Michigan State. I know it's not a great
Yeah.
price, but at 2-0, I think they are like the best team right now in this conference. And I had Oregon. I would have said Oregon probably a month ago, and that's a real home court. And I know they have to go out west, so it's sort of is the travel gonna out or mitigate the lack of like true, I think, home court environment that's really been proven to be such a force in this conference for years, right? It's like one of the most easy trends to bet the last 5, 6, 7 seasons is just betting Big Ten home teams against the spread, and it's just been like clockwork. So that said, I'm going with Sparty, Kai. I just like how they're almost too deep. Izzo almost plays too many guys sometimes, but I think it's going to bode well for them throughout the gauntlet of the Big Ten schedule. So that's where I'm putting my money here. It's my first official bet of the program. Too.
Yeah, I thought you'd go that way, Matthew, and I actually agree. I think Michigan State at 8-1 would be my co-favorite with Oregon at 12-1 right now in the Big Ten. Your Hoosiers down at 20-1, by the way. Preseason, that would have been staggering as well. Just tells you
I
how.
was just looking at that guy, the 35-1 at FanDuel, 10th on the odds
Oh my
board.
gosh!
If we had ranked them there, Indiana fans would have dragged us.
Yep.
And yet here we are. They're not pleased with their coach. They're not pleased with their results,
No.
and probably for good reason.
What's
Shouldn't
Nebraska, Kai?
Nebraska is at
Just scroll down. How far did you
Nebraska's
scroll?
75-1 on FanDuel.
yeah, 40-1 at Caesars. Again, shop around. If please take the better value there.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Matthew likes Michigan State. We love it. Mountain West time. This is a 5-team race, and you can't convince me otherwise, nor the market. San Diego State at 2-1 is the favorite. Utah State 3-1. Boise plus 450, and Nevada and New Mexico are at 5-1. I don't believe conference play has started yet in the Mountain West.
There's Colorado State won
Oh,
at
they
Nevada
just did it. Okay.
yesterday.
Yeah,
There's
that
that,
was
so
fascinating,
that helps that Nevada's got the home loss really hurts them.
Because that one stuck out to me, honestly. At 5-1, Nevada, per Ken Palm, they're barely the third best team. They could be the second best, one spot between them and Utah State. But with that loss, gives them a disadvantage a bit. I think San Diego State's the best team. I don't think 2-1 is worth putting your money on, in my opinion, just because I think the league is so wide open of these 5 teams. But Matt, where are you looking?
I like the Aztecs too. I feel like every year I've been looking. I've kind of had not selling the Aztecs, but thinking the other teams are closer to the Aztecs than people think. This year, I think it really is like an Aztecs are a buy low in my eyes. I think there's a lot of room for improvement with their young bigs. Their guards are starting to look a lot better with Boyd and how he's playing with Bird and our guy DJ Davis. Like I think this team has real upside going down the stretch here. And as I look at the other top contenders, like Utah State, yeah, 10-0 start, but I never thought that team was like infallible. I mean, it's a very good team. It's a unique team. They play a ton of different zones under Calhoun. That could be a problem for teams who have not seen it. And the Spectrum is obviously a great home court. Speaking of great home courts, the Pit, New Mexico. I don't think they have enough backcourt depth, though. And Boise, I think I'm probably underselling, as I always do every year, but I just don't think they have enough firepower either, Jim. So I kind of like the Aztecs. 2-1, not great, but if you have to go, that would be my choice. Again, not an official play for me, but that's my preference of the top 5.
Yeah, I think San Diego State wins this because there's a chance they get Reese Waters back too. He's expected to play at some point. He's still healing from off-season surgery. I think it was a foot injury. But you add to what they already have where their guards look better than past years. They've got a little more scoring juice from Boyd, from Davis. And then they've got Magoon Gwath, like maybe the best shot blocker in the conference. We thought, oh, they lose Mensa and maybe they don't have the same kind of interior fortitude. Well, nope, they're just fine there. So this is where I will officially recommend the San Diego State Duke parlay on FanDuel.
Ooh, okay.
It's put those two together. It's plus 373. I'm content with that. I think you get a decent price in San Diego State, up the payout a little bit, and I feel very good about Duke in the ACC. At the risk of jinxing the Blue Devils, knocking on wood here, but I think that parlay together plus 373 is a winner.
Hey, throw
Jim,
in a
real quick.
Gonzaga. Why not?
Yeah, I like that. Joe, real quick note.
Yeah,
So
that gets it to plus 436 because
Okay.
Gonzaga is minus 750.
Okay.
So,
Oh, wow.
so if you want to do that, you can. We're going to talk the Gonzaga versus St. Mary's and maybe the 50-1 Oregon State.
Jim, I like that the Aztecs have a whole week to prep for their Boise road trip on January 4th. Boise has a game midweek that it's kind of a tough schedule spot for Boise. Like you get the Aztecs at home, but you have a game midweek, 3 less days to prepare, and San Diego State's like that's their hardest trip, and they get all week to gear up for it. So that'll be a huge game in terms of conference race implications for sure.
I like that, Maddie. Yeah, I mean, the schedules are pretty even.
Mostly
Boise
it's
State is the third
consistent,
hardest remaining schedule in the conference. The other ones are all bottom. The other contenders are all like bottom 4 because they, again, don't play themselves. They get to beat up on Fresno and Air Force and San Jose State and Wyoming.
All right, moving on. Here's where I think the concept of teams that fail preseason expectations of the non-con reset, come back for conference play in the American, the AAC. So odds-on favorite right now, Memphis minus 185. You got North Texas at plus 450, FAU at 10-1, Wichita State 11-1, Temple 20-1, and Jim, you knew where I was going. UAB 30-1. That price preseason, I think UAB was around 3-1, maybe something like that. Expected to be right there with Memphis as the best team in this conference. Have not looked good this season, but gosh, 30-1 in a league where I think they have enough talent to win, one of the best players in the league. I would probably take a stab at that.
Yeah, and the favorite isn't. They're not
Volatile.
immune to. Yeah, the Memphis is not immune to collapsing and imploding. Not a team I trust at the top there. Memphis a minus 220 at FanDuel for Memphis. Like, oh, no, thank you. Do not lay that. Do not do that. They have earned probably the right to be the favorite, but they can lay some odd duds, and they're going to have some dead spots in the schedule where they're hosting Temple or East Carolina, and you're like, wait a second, why is Memphis losing at home to that team? So yeah, Kai, I do think it's worth taking a dart here, and UAB at 30-1, 34-1 FanDuel again, shop around. That's probably your best bang for buck payout. I always love North Texas, just like the metronomic half court style, but the price isn't actually that good on them. I would prefer the UAB price.
I would too. Temple intrigued me, but they've been too inconsistent in non-con. I wanted to love this team. I don't love this team yet. I need to see more from them. I'm not going to take 20-1. Obviously, my East Carolina Pirates are sitting there at 31. I'm over that team. I'm done with them. I threw them into a well in my ratings. Honestly, FAU at 10-1. If I had to choose, I'd probably choose that one.
I would say don't sleep on Wichita, man. You just saw them beat Kansas State. That's a good team with a really good home court.
Good coach.
I prefer UAB 30-1, but yeah, Wichita, I don't necessarily hate. Okay, one more league before we get into kind of our pet favorite bets here from the smaller leagues. Let's go WCC. Jim mentioned it, but Gonzaga is minus 750. That's just correct, but also crazy. St. Mary's plus 650. And, you know, if you're going for another team, St. Mary's looked like the next best team, clearly. San Francisco is at 25-1, but the juggernauts, we talked about the Beavers earlier in this podcast, 40-1 at MGM. I think Jim mentioned 50-1 at FanDuel. Santa Clara there, another good team at 50-1. And Washington State, a team I've been really impressed with at 60-1. Jim, I don't have the stones to take any other team besides Gonzaga. I don't think it's worth not parlaying Gonzaga and taking them straight. A useful parlay tool on FanDuel, of course, if you can just add them, because I think they will win this conference. But are you interested in a flyer in the WCC?
I'm a little interested in just because I don't know where the ceiling is for Oregon State. They're just really good every single time out. Their losses are fairly understandable. Like they traveled to North Texas and lost. Okay, I'm okay with that. I'm not gonna condemn you. The problem is Gonzaga is so head and shoulders above everybody else analytically. Like this isn't even the St. Mary's team I'd get excited about sneaking the win and stealing it from them. The backcourt's just not quite juiced enough. Marchulionis is great, the reigning player of the year in the conference, but their younger guards, I think, can kind of have some ups and downs, not consistent enough across the WCC schedule to make me trust them. It is interesting. It's up to an 18 game schedule this year. It had been down to, I think, 14 or 16 games that was allowing Gonzaga to play stiffer non-conference slates to get them better at-large resumes. It was like clearly a catering to Gonzaga specifically, but because they added Washington State and Oregon State to the schedule, it's up to 18. Matt, Gonzaga is going to win it. The price is way too steep for me to do any sort of recommendation unless you want to put it into a parlay. I don't recommend St. Mary's where they're at. Maybe the Beavers swing. That's it.
Yeah, I was looking at St. I just feel like when you do WCC, you have to discuss St. Mary's just like out of obligation. But it's funny, neither Gonzaga or St. Mary's, all their hardest games are late January, February. Like it's all very backloaded as well. So there won't be any like movement or like excitement in this league really in the race if you view those two teams in the top two, which now I think it's 1 and then 2A, 2B, 2C, 2D with Oregon State and. I think even Santa Clara, my darling preseason, still has a chance to get there. I think they're going to start to figure it out. But again, I don't know if that's 50 to 1. I don't know. I think 100 to 1. I would maybe shoot it, but not 50 to 1. Gonzaga's just too robust, I would say.
It's just, the prices are sexy, and you can see these teams, falling a game or two short. Well, you lose. You lose. So it's like, do they really have a chance to win? Do they really have a chance to win the conference? In this case, I just don't think they do. And a good team, a really good team. But yeah, tough in that scenario.
I didn't put A10 in the outline, but I do want to discuss it quick.
Yeah, let's talk A10.
I'll give the prices on it. Yeah. Dayton is minus 110. VCU is even money. So they are telling you these are the two favorites. Mm-hmm. There's obviously a ton of hold in these prices if there's two teams that are basically even, and then you also have long shots. But I want to mention both George Mason and St. Bonaventure. They're 25 to 1 at BetMGM right now. Shop around, of course, best price. Those two have much easier schedules. The A10 set this up to where all the expected top teams would play each other to theoretically get more at large Q1, Q2 type games for those teams. So George Mason plays Dayton once, VCU once, Loyola once, St. Louis once, and St. Joe's once. Like that's a really tilted schedule. And we saw what happened last year in the American when they tried to do that. And suddenly you had Charlotte and South Florida surging up the standings because they had a much easier slate. I think you could see both Bonaventure and George Mason, who have looked very good so far this year, do the same thing. And at that price, I'm willing to do that. I would fully recommend a 25 to 1 on George Mason, Matthew.
I would choose Mason over Bonaventure, I think.
Yeah, I would too. I think the ceiling's higher.
I don't know though. I think I like Bonnie's home court. I think they actually have I like their point guard play better. That's probably Mason's only thing is they haven't really had consistent point guard play. I think they have options. Katie
you
Johnson.
Don't trust Katie Johnson? Well, come on.
Yeah, Auburn fans are like, what? That guy's still playing basketball? Yeah, he's out there. I think he got hurt. He hadn't played a ton. But they have depth, right? I think Mason's their strength is they have strength in numbers, and so if Skin can find a rotation. I like that team's upside more than Bonnie's. But in general, I like that kind of maybe you parlay those two, Jim, as sort of a mini portfolio of sorts. So.
You can't parlay teams in the same league.
Sorry, you just play them both separately and call your bundled A10 portfolio there of dogs.
Take them both. I like it.
Yeah, and hey, I don't hate Loyola 20 to 1. If we're going for teams outside the top two, and Dayton VCU, it is a 2-team race. St. Joe's 10 to 1, but they're going to screw up. They're not going to win this conference. They're too untrustworthy. I can't quit SLU, but 25 to 1, no thanks. I'm over this team now.
Too hurt.
Honestly, Davidson 60 to 1. I'd rather have that. They're not a bad team in my opinion. But it's Dayton VCU, or it's one of Loyola, George Mason, Bonnie's on a longer shot. I think is the correct way to play that.
Yeah, I think that those odds for VCU Dayton are not playable. Even
I agree.
-110,
I agree.
Think so.
Yeah, I don't think it's a coin flip. Basically, is what you're saying.
Yep.
All right. So we don't have to do this too structured, but let me list. I just wrote down 6 bets that intrigue me from kind of a long shot ish perspective through the lower conferences. So maybe I'll list these out. You guys, you can tell me if you like them. You can ignore them. You can counterpoint. And then, of course, add your own little pet teams that you like. So in Conference USA, I'm looking at Middle Tennessee 20-1. This team is far better than I expected in the preseason. I think the league overall is pretty wide open. So I like them at that price, Middle Tennessee 20-1. In the SWAC, two teams caught my eye. Bethune-Cookman at 20-1, who just gave somebody a run for their money. Just beat
They won at South Florida.
at South Florida. Okay. Yeah, not bad. Texas Southern at 7-1, because Texas Southern is always good. And I don't think this league is it's very wide open, I suppose, the SWAC. In the Big Sky, I know you guys will probably agree. I like Montana at 5-1, potentially the best team, getting healthier. 5-1, I like them there. In the MAC, that's the Metro Atlantic, Iona 20-1. I can't quit. I can't believe they're sitting there at this low. I know they haven't been very good, but man, you talk about wide open conference, it's the MAC. Patriot, I don't think it's Colgate's year, man. I keep looking at this team. They're not impressive. It's their league until it's not. I get it. But if you want a different team, I think American at 10-1 is a great look. And then SoCon, a team that a lot of people liked in the preseason, now all of a sudden there's cheap at Chattanooga, 14-1, had injury issues to start the year. I think they're going to climb up in conference play. So those are kind of my super six, we'll say, Jim. Do you like those? Do you want to ignore them? Do you want to give me some of yours? What do you think?
There are two I also wrote down without seeing your choices. So
Perfect.
Independently, great minds came up with common selections here. Those would be Chattanooga 14-1, a team that has not been healthy all through non-conference and is finally there. They're healthy now. Their guards have shot like garbage all season. Honor Huff, Trey Bonham, two very proven producers in that conference. I feel comfortable saying that once they're in that league, they're going to look a lot better. They're smallish, so they don't look as good in non-con matchups, but it's not a super athletic league, and they've got two guards that can really get moving, and they've got interior play now with Frank Champion, the D2 transfer. Sean Cusano is healthy. Yeah, Kai, 14-1 Chattanooga. I've got some 4-1 preseason.
Yep.
I might add some 14-1 just because it's crazy value. And then the other one I love Iona 20-1. I know they're 1-1 right
Good.
now, and there's three teams that are 2-0, but they have the easiest remaining schedule in the conference while sitting 1-1, and they just got Christian Winborn healthy, the transfer from St. Joe's, who kind of changes their lineup. They won at a healthy Colgate today on Sunday as we're recording this, kind of showing that maybe they're going to start to ascend to that potential. It is insane to see 20-1 for Iona. I think that's a great bet, Matthias. I don't know if you're on board, but I will be adding that as soon as we hang up this call.
No, I agree. I think Montana and Iona are we all consensus agree. It's almost like too good to be true, but doesn't make them wrong. Tobin called Winborn their best player in the summer. So yeah, I think a guy of his talent who is like a steady ball handler, he matters a lot. And it's more about the rest of that league just does not look that good. Like we thought like Quinnipiac and maybe Fairfield or Marist would be impressive, and I just honestly haven't been impressed with any team in that. Like I just the drop off in that of talent in that league is looks more and more pronounced as I watch them play. So yeah, those two. The one I wrote down that I really like as well, Brown, 25-1. I know they lost. They've had some injuries. They've been a little bit shorthanded, but coming off that roadie win at home, I think their value actually has increased because of the fact they've had some injuries and they just haven't played anybody yet, Frank. So it's like they've kind of just been like it's been hiding. Like value hiding behind a bad schedule, so to speak. And I just don't love Princeton. I think we've seen them be flawed. I know Yale's impressive, but if what's his face is going to stout the whole rest of the year,
John
that's gonna be some value.
Poulikitis, their 20-point a game scorer, might not play the rest of the season.
I mean, Columbia, they're good, but like, come on, 3-1 for Columbia. Like they haven't played anybody either. They're not too impressive. I think Cornell's actually one team that scares me because I think they're really good too. But again, 25-1, I think Brown's right there. So they kind of proved last season they got hot late. They got in the top four. I think Mike Martin's got a little bit of a knows the landscape, knows how to maneuver the ancient eight, if you will. So that's my third edition on top of Montana and Iona.
Yeah, just don't bet Yale because they probably are going to lose Poulikitis. He's going to sit out and enter the portal at the end of the year, get himself an Ivy League degree, and then go get paid by a major conference team that wants a 45% three-point shooter. Yeah, that'll look pretty good for him long term. Kai, it's interesting you mentioned those two SWAC teams. I came up with a third different SWAC team that I think it's just representative of how open that league is. It's very much a choose your own adventure. What's the picture look like to you? It's a Rorschach test. I saw Jackson State when I looked at the SWAC ink
Yep.
blot, Kai.
Yep.
They have been really banged up all non-conference, and they played a completely absurd schedule, have not played a home game yet. They've used like 8 different starting lineups, but they got a lot healthier over this UTEP event they played in, the Sun Bowl Invitational. They had 12 days off before they went to that, and they looked a little bit better there. Still don't have Deshaun Ruffin, unfortunately,
Yeah.
the former top 50 recruit. He only played 2 games and then went back out with injury. But beyond that, they've got Romel Mansell back, Kavion Hunt is back, Mitchell is back. They've got enough juice there at 16-1 where they were maybe the preseason favorite.
Mhm.
And like, I don't think a whole lot less of them because they've gotten killed by power conference teams while they're doing a world tour. So I don't mind that. Texas Southern also intrigues me.
Yeah, Jackson State was the third one that I was considering. So I agree with you, Jim. Okay, fellas, anything to add? Any other diamonds in the rough you
I
see
have
in the
one
lower
more.
conference? Okay, Jim, go ahead.
I'm gonna throw a little on Cal Baptist 25-1 in the WAC. I
Okay.
love my Cal Baptist Lancers. They're finally eligible for postseason, so maybe there's a little bit more juice to them. And Grand Canyon's just shown enough cracks that I don't think they're impervious at the top of that league. I'm not all that scared of Seattle as the second team. I've loved Cal Baptist all year, so I'm going to take a swing at that, Kai, with the full acknowledgement that Grand Canyon minus 650 is the heavy favorite, but maybe they're just going to have a little more ups and downs than we thought. So give me some Cal Bap.
Currently down at home to SLU right now. So yeah, I don't think they are impervious. Matthew, anything else?
No, I'm gonna stick with my threesome, my 3 for trifecta.
Alrighty. Well, then that does it for us. Happy holidays out there, everyone. Hope you enjoy your holiday time and the little college basketball that you get this week. We will be back next week with another episode of the Big Bets on Campus. Again, we are 3-Man Weave, and we will see you next time. Cheers. Good luck with your bets.